How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Pei, Daf 85 of Masechta BavaKama, friends. Yo, friends. Yo, friends. Another big old Daf over here in Babylon Talmud. I don't know. I think it's Friday afternoon. I'm running out of time. So I think we might only get to pay Hey Amud Beis like halfway through the Amud. Don't worry, we're still going to do plenty today. It's a big old daf, and we still have a bit to do on Pei Daled. It's talking about the Chamisha Devarim, the Sheves Tsar, Ripui Nezek, Sheves Tsar, Ripui Boshes, there were 5 somewhere in there. Alright. Okay, so it starts with starts with Machlekes. Okay, we started that Pei Daled base, about 15 lines from the bottom, so at the 2 dots. Tsar, bam. Kvo b'shvud or b'masmer v'chulei. So tsar is so it sounds like we're talking about, as the Gemara says, tsar shlo b'makom nezek mishtalim. Sounds like what we're saying is that you can even have payment for pain for tsar sheloi b'makom nezek if it's meaning just pure pain, even without like making a chabur, even without making like a wound or permanent damage. Just pure pain. So tsar shelo b'makom nezek mishtalim. So we're saying that you pay for tsar even if it's only pain alone. Mantana. So who's the Tana who says that you pay for pain alone? Right. Sorry, I didn't translate though. So meaning, so if you take a shvud, if you take a hot skewer or something, or a hot nail or something like that, and you like put it on somebody's fingernail, that sounds horrible. Don't do that. And then that would just be pure pain. So that. Okay. So Mantana, so who's the one who says that you would pay for pure pain? So Amar Rav says Rav ben Azai. The Tana who says that would be ben Azai. The Tanya is one of the Baisi Rebbe. Omer says Rebbe Kviya Nemra Tchila ben Azai Omer Chabura Nemra Tchila. All right. So this is going to be a little mini machlokas over here. So Rebbe says. So the pasuk says Kviya tachas Kviya Petza tachas Potza Chabura tachas Chabura. Okay. So Rebbe says Kviya Nemra Tchila. That kviya is that a burn is written first. Ben Azai Omer Chabura Nemra Tchila, that Chabura is written first. A wound is written first. The question is, what does this mean, and what are the implications for the requirements for the chiyuv for pain? So, Michael, what's the machlokas? We can see two opposite ways of understanding this machlokas. Rabbi Savar kviya delays ba Chabura mashma. So remember, Rebbe says kviya nemra tchila. So what does it mean kviya nemra tchila? It means that when the pasuk first says kviya, it means, I'm going to read that again. You have to like jump back a little bit. It's not a very hard machlokas, but it's not a very easy machlokas either. So Rebbe says kviya delays ba chabura mashma. That kviya alone implies simply a burn, a pure burn with no wound. Just, like we said, if you take a shvud and you put it on somebody's fingernails and it just hurts, but it doesn't leave a wound or anything like that. So when it says kviya, it's talking about that. It's talking about just a pure kind of application of heat, and it's just pain. So kasav achmana chabura, but then the pasuk says right after that, chabura tachas chabura, and legaluye Allah, to elucidate what we were talking about, to elucidate the burn. The kviya, the isba chabura in ilolo. That you'd only going to be chayiv for a burn that has a chabura, a burn that has a wound. But a burn alone, you would not be chayiv for. Sorry, Mom. So you would not be chayiv for. Okay, so when Rebbe says kviya nemra tchila, it means that when the pasuk first says kviya, it means a burn alone. But then the pasuk continues and says chabura, to say that ultimately we're not talking about a burn alone. We're talking about a burn with a wound. Where am I? Ben Azai Savar, and Ben Azai holds kviya dis b'chabura mashma. That when Ben Azai says chabura nemra tchila, he means that when the pasuk first says kviya, it means a burn with a wound, a kviya with a chabura, a burn with a wound. So kasav achmona chabura. But then when the pasuk says, wait a second, chabura tachas chabura, it says, it's an aha moment. We say, okay, I first thought that kviya meant a kviya with a chabura. But then I see, the pasuk talks about chabura separately. So that's, when it says chabura, it's talking about chabura. So what does it mean when it says kviya? Then it must mean kviya alone. Right, so where am I? So I keep on losing my place. So again, I'm going to read Ben Azai again. Ben Azai saw kviya de'izba chabura mashma, that right, chabura nemer tchila, meaning initially when it says kviya, a burn, it means a burn with a wound. But then, kasav achmana chabura. But then the pasuk says chabura tachas chabura legaluyi Allah, which then says okay, the chviya, that actually when it says kviya initially delays chabura. It actually means that there's no chabura. So therefore the way that Rava understands this machlokas is that the way that Rava understands this machlokas, that when Rebbe says kviya, what's it, kviya nemer tchila? Yeah, that when Rebbe says kviya nemra tchila, it means that initially I would have thought that kviya means a burn alone, but then the pasuk says chabura to say no, it means a burn with a chabura is what you're chayav for, not for a burn alone. And that when Ben Azai says chabura nemra tchila, it means that initially I would have thought that when the pasuk says kviya, it means kviya with a chabura, right, a burn with a wound. But then it says chabura tachas chabura, which means okay, I guess kviya meant just chabura, a kviya alone, a burn alone. So we see according to Ben Azai that also just a burn alone you would be chayiv for. So therefore our Mishnah that says that a burn alone you would be chayiv for must be Ben Azai maskif Rav Papa. Rav Papa understands this brisa punkt fakert. Ad Rabba Ipro mistavra Rebbe Omer kviya nem. Okay, one second. Ipro mistavra. So punkt fakert. Punkt fakert. So the brisa, of course, is the brisa, right? That Rebbe says kviya nemer tchila. Ben Azai says chabura nemer tchila. But the question is, what are the implications of that? So when it says Rebbe Omer kviya nemer tchila, it's not talking about the havamina that initially I thought that when it says kviya, it means kviya alone. Therefore, it says chabura. Say no, it's not just kviya but kviya with the chabura. No. It's not talking about just the havamina. It's talking about the maskana. That meaning Rebbe Omer kviya nemer tchila, that when Rebbe says kviya alone, it means that the halacha is that according to Rebbe, a kviya, a burn alone, you would be chayiv for. Sover kviya de'isba chabura mashma, because Rebbe actually is the one who holds that when it says kviya, that when it says a burn, by default it means a burn with a wound. Kasav achmana chabura. Therefore, but then the pasuk says right after chabura tachas chabura legaluye Allah, to ultimately teach us that the kviya, that when it says kviya initially it means delays b'chabura, that has no chabura. So meaning when Rebbe says kviya nemer tchila, it means that the conclusion is that when it says kviya, it means just a burn alone, even if there's no wound. Ben Azai Omer chabura nemer tchila, whereas Ben Azai says, no, it's talking about a burn with a wound. It means, Savar, initially he thought, kviya delays ba chabura mashma, that when it says a burn, it means just a burn without a wound. Kasav achmana chabura, but then the pasuk says, chabura tachas chabura, legaluye Allah, to teach about the kviya de isba chabura in ilolo, that davko we're talking about a wound that has a burn that has a wound, according to Ben Azai v'maskona kaime, and when Rebbe says kviya nemer tchila, and when Ben Azai says chabura nemer tchila, it's talking about the maskona, the conclusion that at the end of the day we say that Rebbe is saying that when the pasuk says kviya, it means a burn alone, you're going to be chayiv for. And Ben Azai says that chabura nemer tchila, that no, you're only going to be chayiv for a burn with a wound. So therefore, according to Rav Papa, our Mishnah is Take Rebbe, which makes sense because Rebbe was the editor of the Mishnah. Okay. Inami, alternatively, alternatively, you could say both Rebbe and Ben Azai agree that when it says a burn, it's all kinds of burns, with a wound, without a wound. We're talking right. They are included. But here the machlokas is, so we're assuming that that Rebbe says that we're talking about a burn, that you'd even be chayiv for a burn without a wound. Ben Azai is saying you're only chayiv for a burn with a wound. So the machlokas here is about learning klal ufrat when there's a break in the middle, right? Because the pasuk says kavia tachas kavia, right? Which means any kind of burn. But then it says petza tachas potza, and then it says chabura tachas chabura. So the question is, what's the role of petza tachas potza as an interruption there? Right, so let's read the Gemara. That the machlokus between Rebbe and Ben Azai is with regards to a klal ufrat. We of course know about klal ufrat from last parak merubah, right? Klal ufrat means that when you have a general rule such as this, it says a burn. That includes all kinds of burns, with a wound, without a wound. But then it says chabura tachas chabura. Then it mentions with a wound. So if we say klal ufrat, it means wait, it's no longer all kinds of wounds, it's no longer all kinds of burns, it's only burns that have a wound, right? Because it says kavir tachas kavir, but then it says chabur tachas chabura to say only if it has a wound. But the question is this actually klal ufrat? Because petza tachas potza is in the middle. So therefore says the Gemara, so Rebbe Savar Ein danin osu b'klal ufrat. So Rebbe says we don't treat it as a klal ufrat, and therefore it's not limited to if there's a wound, and therefore according to Rebbe you can be chayiv even if it's just a burn alone. Ben Azai savar danin osu b'klal ufrat. Whereas Ben Azai says that we will still treat it as a klal ufrat even though petza tachas potza is in the middle, and therefore so it initially says a burn whether it has a wound, whether it doesn't have a wound, but then it says chabur tachas chabur to say scratch that only if there's a wound. And the fact that petza tachas potza is in the middle doesn't matter. It could still be a klal ufrat. So if that's the case, then why does the pasuk b'chlal say chabura tachas chabura? What's it doing there? According to Rebbe, when it says kavir tachas kavir, it means all kinds of burns. Wound, no wound. So what's the point of chabura tachas chabura? What does it do for us? So the Dam Yisayim, well, to say that you're not just going to pay for the burn, you're going to pay for the burn and for the wound. Right? That you pay for both. That we treat them, right, they each get taken into account when it comes to payments. Okay. Omdin kama adam kayotze boze rotze litol v'chulei. So we say, so how do you evaluate pain? Well, we figure out how much would a person be willing to receive to experience such a pain. So tzar b'makom nezek heichi shaminan. So how do we evaluate pain in the context of nezek, right? So for example, if a fellow gets his hand plopped off, so we got to pay for the fact that he now doesn't have a hand anymore. But also one of the other things we have to pay for is the pain. How do we isolate the pain to know how much, the pain alone is valued at? So again, so when there's damage and there's also tsar, how do we isolate the tsar so that we know how much its value is? So Amavur de Shmuel, says the father of Shmuel, Omdin kama adam rotzalitol liktor lo yodo. So we say, well, we go up to a guy and we say, guy, say I were to plop off your hand. Or how about this? How much would I have to pay you to be able to plop off your hand? So that way, we could find out. Where am I? But we say that's not just going to tell me about the pain. That's going to tell me about all the things, right? The guy, right? When I go up to that guy and I say, hey, guy, how much would I have to pay you to plop off your hand? He's thinking not just how much it's going to hurt. He's thinking, no, I won't have a hand anymore. He's thinking, who's going to pay for the hospital bills? He's thinking, it could be embarrassing. Whether, where's my hand gone? There's all sorts of things that he's thinking about. And therefore, I don't understand that word of Shmuel, just asking a guy how much we'd have to pay to plop off his hand. That's not going to isolate the pain factor. Are we talking about fools? Who the heck is it? Nobody's going to just part with their hand. If you have a fellow who's basically got like a dead hand, right? He's got a hand, but his hand, it doesn't work. I don't know, it's paralyzed somehow. His hand doesn't work. So therefore, if we plop it off, the only thing that will be pain. He already can't use it, so it's not like he has a hand and then he won't have a hand. The hand is useless. So therefore, if we just plop it off, the question is how painful will that be and how much would a person be willing, how much I have to pay a fellow to plop off his hand like that, a dead hand. But even a dead hand, it wouldn't only be pain alone. There's also boshas, there's also embarrassment, like I said a minute ago. Right? We're going to take his hand, he's going to throw it to Hund. And therefore, so it's not just the pain, there's also other aspects, right? The embarrassment aspect of losing your hand like that. So it wouldn't be isolated to pain alone. Rather, we figure out how much you would have to pay a fellow to plop off his hand. That basically the government decided that this guy's hand needs to be plopped. But they said what we're going to do is we're going to plop it with the plopping potion. Right? We're going to give him a plopping potion. He drinks the potion, and then the hand plops. L'sayif. But then we go up to him and we say, hey, how about this? What if instead of giving you a plopping potion, I take a plopper. A plopper is a sword, and I just take a plopper and I plop it with a plopper. So we say, how much would we have to pay you to agree to forfeit the plopping potion, and instead I'll plop off your hand with a plopper. So nobody's gonna do that. Nobody's gonna, if they can use a plopping potion, nobody's gonna say, yeah, sure, I'll go with the plopper. Rather, it's fakert. That if you have a fellow who the government says that we're going to plop off your hand with a plopper, and he's like, wait, I will pay you. What's that number? What's that number that he's going to be willing to pay for the plopping potion instead of the plopper? So, l'malchus bein saif l'sam. So that is how you isolate pain alone, right? Meaning the hand has got to go. They're going to plop it with a plopper. And he says, wait, I will pay you X amount of money in order to be able to plop it with a plopping potion. So we do a little bit of algebra and we isolate X and we figure out what X is. That is the value of the tsar alone. Hi lito lite mi baile, but 1 second. The Mishnah talks about Adam wrote a lito, to accept. How much are you willing to accept? But now we're talking about how much would you be willing to pay for the plopping potion. So Amar Ravuna Breder of Yeshua lito ze ma lito ze mize ma shenoson ze. No, I think if I understand correctly, it means that meaning for I guess the people to take what this guy who's about to become a ploop. So what the ploop is willing to pay, and that will be accepted for the to administer the plopping potion instead of the plopper. Okay, so now the Mishnah said ripo yiko chayv aposa v'chule. So so the medical bills. Okay, so the damager needs to pay for the medical bills of the damaged party, of the injured party. Taner Rabbanan, the rabbi said, "Alubot smachim mach masamake." Okay, so the wound got sores on it, vinistera, and the sores went away, but then they came back. Vinistera amake chayv aposo. So the injurer, the damager, needs to pay for the medical bills. V'chayv litin lo dmei shifto, and he also needs to pay for the fact that the injured party is out of work, cannot work. He has to pay for and is that what's called the, I don't know, disability? Medical leave? Medical leave maybe? I don't know. Shalom ach masamake, enu chayv la'aposav, enu chayv litin lo dmei shifto. But if he develops sores, but they have nothing to do with the wound that was inflicted upon him, it's just a random sores that he got, well then the damager does not need to pay for these medical bills or sheves related to this. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, even if it is by way on account of the wound, chayiv l'raposo, the damager needs to pay for the medical bills, but ve'enu chayiv litin lo t'mei shivto, but he does not need to pay for sheves. We're going to explore this momentarily. V'chacham momers, the chacham say shivto v'raposo, that the pasuk says, right, rak shivto yitin v'rapo yirape, so shivto v'raposo kol shechayiv b'sheves. Look, if you have to pay for sheves, chayiv b'ripoy, then you have to pay for the medical bills. V'sheinu chayiv b'sheves, but if you don't have to pay for sheves, so the enu chayiv b'ripoy, then you don't pay for the hospital bills, and they go hand in hand. All right. What's the machlokus between the Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda? Omer Rabbi Sijaba Ashko Chasinu l'Rabbanon B'vei Rab, that I saw the people at the yeshiva. They asked me that they were learning the sugya. And they said that this machlokus between the Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda, where the Tanakam says that you have to pay for, that if it's on account of the wound, you have to pay for ripoy and sheves, and Rabbi Yehuda says you pay for ripoy but not for sheves. So the machlokus is, can you wrap up a wound? If you have a wound, I think if I understand correctly, the assumption is that you just leave it. You leave it and let it heal. But by wrapping it up, it'll, make it relatively more comfortable, but it might not, might not be good for the healing process. So the question is, can you wrap up this wound? The rabbis say, yes, you could wrap it up, and therefore, even if you wrapped it up and then it got sores or whatever, so then you would pay ripoy and sheves. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda says you don't wrap up a wound, and if he did, well then, ripoy the tana bekra, the ripoy, which it says twice in the pasuk, v'rapo yirape, it doubles, right? It says v'rapo yirape, a double ripoy. So then, mechayev, so then you'll be chayev for ripoy, because it says it twice. But sheves de lo tana bekra, sheves, which it only says shiv toyite, and doesn't, it's not a double language. So then, lo mechayev, he will be potter from paying sheves. But v'amina lu'ano, and then Rabbah says, but I told the people, if make lo nitna le'eged, that you're not allowed to wrap up the wound, then ripoy nami lo mechayev, and Rabbi Yehuda would say, you wouldn't be chayev for the medical bills either. If you're not allowed to wrap up a wound, and you did, of course you're not. Of course you're potter for medical bills. El d'chule alma make nitna le'eged, but v'lo nitna le'eged yisera. So everybody agrees that you're allowed to wrap up a wound, but you're not allowed to wrap it up too much. I'm not exactly sure what too much means. Too tight? Too much? You can't do it too much. And he did it too much. So Rabbi Yehuda Savar Kevin de lo nitna le'eged yisera. Well, since he did what he wasn't supposed to, he wrapped it up too much. So ripoy de tana bekra. So look, it says ripoy, right? V'rapo yirape. It says ripoy twice in the pasuk. So mechayev, so you can mechayev for ripoy, but sheves de lo nitna be de lo tana be kra, but sheves, where it doesn't double say it, lo mechayev, you're going to be potter for sheves. Rabbanan Savre, whereas the rabbis say, kevin de tana be kra be ripoy, a sheves nam mechayev. Since the pasuk says v'rapo yirape, it says ripoy twice, so therefore you can be chayev for ripoy, and since you're chayev for ripoy, you're oichid chayev for sheves. The iskash lo ripoy kesheves is compared to ripoy. Rabbi Yehuda Savar sheves lo mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda says that he's going to be potter from sheves, demoate kra, rak, because the pasuk says rak, right? Rak shivto yitin. So to exclude a scenario, this scenario of too much eged, v'abonan rak l'shalom achmas hamake u'da'asa. Whereas the rabbis say that when it says rak, it's to exclude a scenario where the wound was where the sores were not on account of the wound. In that case, the damager does not need to pay any of the bills. The Gemara is going to explore that in a minute. Rabbanan Basroi and the later rabbis, the Amri Kol Shechayiv B'Sheves Chayiv B'Ripoy, that look, whenever you're chayiv for sheves, you're chayiv for ripoy. Chol She'enu Chayiv B'Sheves, Enu Chayiv B'Ripoy. And if you're not chayiv for sheves, then you're not chayiv for ripoy. Okay, so okay. And therefore, I guess that right. So if you're not going to be chayiv, I guess that there's a scenario, where you're not chayiv for sheves, and you're also not chayiv for ripoy, and I guess that v'rapo yirape, isn't necessarily coming to include ripoy. So the Tanabe, so Ripoy did, okay, where am I? Okay. So Ripoy the Tanabe Kra Lamli, why does it say Ripoy twice? Mi Baile Lich the Tanat Bishmal, so we need it for the Tanat Bishmal, the Tanat Bishmal. Ome Virapo Yirape, that when it says Virapo Yirape, Mikan Shenitan Rishus Larofe the Rapos. That's interesting. So we learn from there that there's permission for a doctor to heal. Because I may have thought that, look, if the Eibishter makes somebody sick, the Eibishter wants him to be sick, let him be. Are you going to interfere with the Eibishter's plans? So we say, no, Rapo Yirape, you can surely heal. A doctor is allowed to heal the sick, and we don't say, leave him be, the Eibishter wants him to be sick. No, a doctor is allowed to heal the sick. Tanu Rabbanan the Rabbis taught, how do we know that if sores came on account of the wound, and then they went away and they came back, that you have to give sheves, ripoy and sheves, like we said earlier, according to Chacham, Tamlomer, skip the word rak, Tamlomer shivto yitein v'rapo yirape. Therefore it says, well, sheves and ripoy. Yochel afilu shalom machmas hamake. Is it possible that even if the sores were unrelated to the wound, he would have to pay tamlama rak? It says rak only to exclude this scenario, that in that scenario, if it was unrelated to the sores, so then unrelated to the wound, so then the damager would be potter from paying for his bills. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda af machmas hamake, potter, even if it was on account, even if it was from the wound, you would be potter. Shenemar rak, because it says rak. Those who say af machmas hamake, even on account of the wound, potter legamre, you would be completely potter. Kravon basroi, like the later rabbis who say that when you don't pay sheves, you don't pay ripoy at all. Potter misheves v'chai b'ripoy, or those who say when it says if it's on account of the wound, you would be potter. It means from sheves, but you'd be chayv for ripoy. Kaman, who's that like kavua, like his father, Rabbi Yehuda, who says that you chayv for ripoy but not for sheves. Omer Mai, we said, or yochel afilu shalom machmas hamake tamlom rak. Right, so we had said earlier, maybe some of the Chevei Babylon Talmud were wondering about this. So when it says afilu shalom machmas hamake, right, that is it possible that even if the sores are unrelated to the wound, the damager would be chayiv? Tamlom rak, it says rak to say that he's potter. But shalom machmas hamake, why do I need a pasuk to say that if the injured party gets sores unrelated to the wound, the damager is potter? Obviously he's potter. If it's unrelated, he's potter. Why do you need a pasuk? So Amrei, Mai Shalom Machmas Hamake, what does it mean that it's unrelated to the wound? Kidetanya, as we learn in a Braisa, Aresha Over Al Divrei Rofe. Well, what if the injured party ignored, he disregarded the advice of the doctor? V'achol dvash, kol minei mesika, and even though he was injured, he then was eating honey and other sweet things. Because honey and sweet things are bad for healing wounds. And then he got gargusni. So here it's not directly, so it's kind of like a kind of gray area in the sense that, he ate this honey, right? Now, normally eating honey would be fine, but because he has this wound that was inflicted by the injured party, now because he ate honey, now it made a whole problem. So on the one hand, the problem is because he has a wound, and that wound was inflicted by the injurer. But at the same time, it's his own fault that he ate. If he wouldn't have eaten the honey, then these sores would not have come. So the question is, who's responsible? So in that case, we say, is it possible that the damager would be responsible for that? Tamlom rak, it says rak to exclude this scenario, that the damager will be potter from paying for the bills in this case, even though, it is related to the wound, but it was preventable. And, so we say that the injured party should not have eaten that stuff. My gargusni, what's gargusni? It's dead flesh. My asusa says, what do you do about the dead flesh? Ahalo v'kira v'kalba, aloe and wax and resin or something. Okay. Now the amarle asyoch ono, and what if the injurer, the damager, says, hey, injured guy, guess what? I'm a doctor. Let me heal you. Right? He's trying to save money. Right? He says, no, I'm not going to hire a doctor. I'm a doctor. So the injured fellow says, yeah, right. I basically, as far as I'm concerned, you are a lion waiting to ambush. And if the damager says, how about this? I know a doctor, he'll come, he'll treat you for free. The injured fellow says, a doctor who's going to heal for free, right? A doctor who's going to heal for nothing is worth nothing. And if the damager says, I'll bring you a doctor from far away, so the injured fellow says, a fellow who's far away has a blind eye, meaning to him he lives far away. He comes, he tells me whatever he tells me, gives me whatever he gives me, and he leaves. It makes no difference to him what ends up happening to me. I don't trust him. And if the injured fellow says, Havli ladidi, just give me money and I'll take it. You just pay me cash and I'll take care of healing myself. I'll take care of healing myself. So the damager says, no, I don't trust you, because I don't know how you're using that money. If you do something silly, then you're going to end up in worse condition, and then you're going to ask me for more money. And if the injured fellow says, okay, we'll make it a flat fee, just give me X amount of money and I'll take care of it and I won't ask you for more. Still, the injurer says, no, I still can't do this, because even with a flat fee, you're gonna I don't know what you're going to do, something that isn't going to work and it's going to get worse, and then I'm going to be the guy who did it to you, and I'm going to be a shor mazik. I'm going to be a terrible guy. Look what I caused to happen to you. So I guess what they need to do is they need to have some kind of scenario where the damager gets a reliable doctor, pays for the reliable doctor, the injured party gets healed, and they work it out that way. And we pay all of these things, tsar, ripoy, sheves, boshes, right, in addition to nezek. Immediately, how do we know this? Zvid, mishmei derove. The pasuk says, petza tachas potza litin tsar b'makom nezek. When the pasuk says petza tachas potza, it's saying that even when you're paying nezek for the damages, still there's also going to be tsar. Hamiboyle l'rabba shogeg kimezid va'onis kiratzon. But petza tachas potza is not teaching us to include tsar b'makom nezek. It's teaching us that you're even chayav for damages. Shogeg kimezid va'onis kiratzon. Im ke nichtav rachmana petza bipetza. My petza tachas potza shmamina tarte. That when it says petza tachas potza instead of petza bipotza, so it's saying both things. It's saying shogeg kimezid v'onis kiratzon, and it's oichid saying they're going to be chayav for tsar b'makom nezik. Rapapi mishmei derave omar krav v'rapo yirape liten refuah b'makom nezik. That even when you're paying for damages, you also have to pay for the medical bills. Hi, but v'rapo yirape is needed for, like we learned a few minutes ago, from the Tana D'Vei B'Shmuel. The Tana D'Vei B'Shmuel, v'rapo yirape mikan shnitnu rishus larof v'derapos. We learn from here that permission is granted to a doctor to heal. Imke nichtov kra v'rofe yirape. But if it was only teaching that, then the pasuk could say that the doctor will heal. Shmamina litein refuah b'makom nezek. And v'rapo yirape is teaching us that, right, that a doctor can heal, but also that there's refuah b'makom nezek. V'akatimi ba'ilelich da morin l'misne be'kra b'ripoy. But v'rapo yirape, we had mentioned earlier that it could also, right, the double lashon of v'rapo yirape, comes to teach that there are scenarios, right, dafka, that there are scenarios, right, that we go out of our way to pay for the hospital bills, and we don't say that he's potter because of the double lashon of v'ripoy. V'rapo yirape, imkein lemakra, rapo, yirape, my v'rapo yirape, shmamina, it's still coming to teach, litein refuah b'makom nezek, to say that you pay for ripoy in addition to nezek. Mechad mishkachas lu shelo b'makom nezek. Okay, fine. From the fact that we're talking about tsar in addition to nezek, and ripoy in addition to nezek, that implies that there are scenarios where you pay for, where you can have just pure pain without damages, and you can have pure, right, just ripoy without damages. So, where am I? By Michlal, it implies the Mishkachaslu Shalob Makum Nezek. Shalob Makum Nezek Kechi Mishkachaslu. So what would be the scenarios when there's no Nezek? So Tsar Kidikatani, well, pure pain would be like we taught. Tsar Kvo Bishvud, if you burn a fellow with a shvud, or b'masmir, or with a nail, vafil al tziporno, even on his fingernails, makom she'eno osech habur, where it doesn't make a blemish, so that would just be pure pain, ripoy and healing. Da'ava koiv le midi, pain would be, for example, medical bills without nezek would be da'ava koiv le midi v'solik. For example, if he has some kind of a wound and the wound is healing, but then this fellow gives him some kind of terrible ointment, and it bleaches his flesh. And now he needs some kind of medicine to make his flesh good again. To bring back the color to his flesh. So there would be no sort of wound, because I guess the wound was already there. But there would be the medical bill. Sheves dehadke be'indirona, and paying for missed work would be if he locks him in a room, so then he's just not, hurt or anything or damaged, but he's missing work. Boshes, so dehadke be'indure uvatle, boshes directly bypay, and embarrassment, humiliation would be if he spit in his face, for example. Even though there's no damage, there's humiliation. I think we got to stop here because I'm running out of time, which also I think maybe means that tomorrow is going to be a big old daf, but all right, Seder. Peace.